Hello, Superboy Beyond fans. Welcome back. It's Tom and Chris here with one of our patented Superboy commentaries. This day, we are going to go to the well of Season 2, and we're going to do one of the two-parters. This is probably one of the better two-parters from Season 2, Abandon Earth.
/ Escape to Earth. But yeah, Escape to Earth will be next week, obviously.
Yep. This is notable in that it features an appearance of Jor-El and Lara, as played by George Lazenby and Britt Ekland, two James Bond alumnists.
And it's interesting that they're not from the same film. It could have been interesting maybe if they got like Diana Rigg or something to play Lara. But it's also kind of interesting seeing a Bond and a Bond girl from different films interacting on screen. There's just something kind of, as a geek, there's just something really kind of satisfying and fun about that. Yeah, this is going to be a fun one to watch.
Yep. So for those of you who are joining us today, just remember there's not going to be any clips from the episode in the video. There is going to be a very heavily filtered version of the episode right up there. And that's just so that you can keep in track with us, because, yes, we do know that sometimes you got to go to the bathroom, you got to answer the door because the mail's there, whatever. We know that sometimes it's very hard to get back in track with us. That's why we have the little tracker. So I'm going to count you in with a 3, 2, 1 play, and if you've got your DVDs or your streaming versions ready, you can just hit play with us. So 3, 2, 1 play.
Yeah, so this is the Jor-El and Lara episode, although technically it's not. There is a nice line of dialogue, though. I think it's in part 2 that explains it, so obviously I won't talk too much about that now. Yeah, this is a really fun episode, and it's also the only episode where Clark sort of has a Fortress of Solitude, and it's almost a shame that set didn't return. We'll get to that. It's not the best set in the world, to be fair. And, it's always cool seeing Mara and Pa Kent.
Yes. And this opening shot here is really setting up, some atmosphere.
And as always, the music by Kevin Kiner is just a great accompaniment to the scene.
Yep. Okay.
Not sure if we've already gone past this credit, but who wrote this episode? Do you know?
Hasn't mentioned it yet.
Okay. Cary Bates and Mark Jones.
Yep.
Two of maybe the best writers to have been on the show. Richard J. Lewis as well, one of the better directors that the show ever had. He did quite a few pretty fantastic episodes.
And I like the fact that they are trying to, recreate the Superman the movie looks here.
Not quite as bright, but obviously that was going to be a real pain to accomplish on a TV budget, because we know how much of a pain that was to actually shoot.
Yeah.
I
But
think I actually prefer these versions of the suits because the material is still quite shiny. It's quite futuristic, at least for the time. Yeah, it is a good looking suit. It's a nice update.
yeah, the only thing that I don't like about it is, the boots on
I'll
Jor-El.
have to wait and see when the boots show up because I can't picture them right this second. I can't say I'd ever really noticed the boots. But yeah, it's another interesting episode though, in that it's one of the few episodes where Clark has a birthday. I'd be interested to see actually whether this episode aired at the same time as Rites of Passage, since that was the next birthday that I can remember Clark having in the show. Be interesting to see if they aired the same month or if they just didn't really care.
And for Superman fans who do watch our show, canonically, it has always been established that Superman's birthday is February 29th. So I doubt that this is February 29th.
I'm going to pull up IMDb quickly and just have a quick check because you never know. Let's see. Okay, this episode aired February 17th.
So pretty close.
Yeah. February's not that close. Not that far, though. And the next time we see Clark's birthday, it was May 10th, a few years later. So obviously they didn't air even close to each other, really. They were a couple of months apart, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah,
I think we all know that shows don't actually take place at the same time that they're airing most of the time. It's usually only if there's a Halloween special or a Christmas special, maybe Thanksgiving.
Yeah, but remember something. February 29th only comes around once every 4 years. And these episodes were 2 years apart.
Maybe that's why he's still Superboy. He keeps skipping birthdays because of leap years. That's why he's Superboy for so much longer than was perhaps believable.
Yep.
You know what? That's canon now. That is canon. As far as it's my head canon, but who cares? I do like in this episode Mar and Parl's reactions to what's going on. I think that Stuart Whitman and Salome Jens both do a very good job with it.
Yeah. He's trying to stay, as calm as possible. You can see there's little cracks in his demeanor. She's the one who's really losing it, though.
Yeah. I wish they'd added a slightly better sound effect for when he threw the S down, because I don't think it sounds quite heavy enough. I mean, that thing is made of concrete or something. It should be a pretty loud thud. So yeah, first episode with Jor-El and Lara. First episode we hear the name Kal-El in this show.
And it's a shame that what happens at the end of the next part.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's a shame he doesn't get to remember it. But then again, I suppose if all the characters in this episode remembered the events, it would have been a very different show from this point on, because obviously Lana would have found out his identity. Did Andy know his identity too?
No, Andy doesn't make it through. And by resetting history, Andy's alive again.
Okay. Right, yeah, because Andy dies when they're doing that thing on the ship where they're running around what looks like a farm. Is that right?
Yeah.
I don't remember how he dies, so it'll be interesting when we get there. It's been a while since I've seen this one. And we were putting off recording this episode because we were hoping to get George Lazenby on the show, but his management team say he doesn't do podcasts, so it's fair enough. At this point, he certainly doesn't need to do any shows that he doesn't want to.
Right. We'd still like to get him on if he ever changes his mind, but
Yeah.
Now you see what I'm talking about when you look at his boots.
Maybe they'd look better if they're off-white, because they're slightly sort of a mint green sort of color. It just, I don't know, maybe the boots would have looked better if they were just black,
Well, the way Marlon Brando's suit looked, the way the boots, the pants tucked into the boots, it was more like combat boots. They were that low. These, right. It looks like it's a, I hate to say it like this, but it looks like it's a Nazi uniform in white.
Maybe that's a slight indication that all's not as it seems. Yeah, I don't know. I think just sticking him in black boots would have looked better.
But they wanted to keep as much of the aesthetic from the original movies as possible here.
Yeah, but I mean, Jor-El had that variant of his suit where he had the black version with the white S. It's nothing to say you can't mix and match. Like, it could have actually been quite a cool little nod if when Jor-El showed up in this episode, if he was wearing the black version of the suit, because that again would be a nice little indicator that perhaps all's not as it seems,
Yeah.
But then I guess they wanted the white just because that is the more memorable look for Jor-El. Even Smallville recreated that suit, didn't they?
Yeah.
I would say Smallville's suit is slightly better than this one, though.
And even Lois and Clark did a white version of the suit.
Yeah. It didn't have the big S on the chest, though, did it? I think he had, wasn't it like the little one? It was like a shoulder thing.
Yeah.
It's been a while. It's been a while since I've seen it, so I'm trying to remember
who was in that suit when they did it in Lois and Clark.
Yeah, what's his name? David Warner. Is it Warner or Werner? I never know.
David Warner.
Yeah, just one of those phenomenal actors.
He passed away a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think so. It's funny, Gerard's landing there was very John Newton. He would probably hate that I just said that, but he sort of had the arm thing going down that John always had, which was odd. Maybe it's just a case where that's the most comfortable position to do the landings in, and John just adapted it when he did it.
Yeah.
So go on.
And, despite her age here, Britt Ekland still looks amazing.
Yeah, very beautiful woman.
Who was
married? It's a shame she doesn't have a little bit more to do. She was married to Peter Sellers.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Interesting.
George could have puckered his lips a little bit more, when he was using his quote unquote super breath there.
He looked a little bit bored, didn't he? He was just sort of like it wasn't really a Yeah, I do wish they'd give Britt Ekland a little bit more to do in these episodes, but she's not bad. It's just obvious that Jor-El was the main one that they were writing for in these scenes. Which almost makes me wonder, what's even the point in having her there? Just have the alien impersonate Jor-El. You don't necessarily need Lara there if she's not going to do very much.
Now, she did a super breath pose better than he did.
Mm. I'm also pretty sure that his heat vision can melt titanium. I'm sure he's done it in the comics at some point. Probably would just take a little bit longer.
Yeah, but 3 of them at once?
Yeah, no problem. I mean, to be honest, instead of piercing it in the first place, I would have just flown the entire thing out of there, just thrown it into the sun. You don't even necessarily need to shut it down first. Just grab the thing, fly out of there at super speed, and just launch it as fast as you can. Once it's out of the atmosphere, you don't have to worry.
Yeah, remember John's Superboy took an exploding android into space, or tried to.
So there's precedent for it, you know. It is almost a shame it's not really Jor-El and Lara, because I do like this scene, you know. If he was actually Jor-El, it'd be quite a nice sort of moment where they're just apologizing and thanking the Earth for taking care of Kal-El, you know.
And it's moments like this that, really, when we find out that they are not Jor-El and Lara, it really, is like a gut punch.
Yeah.
Because they have moments where they're acting absolutely perfect, that they are the grieving parents. And then there's moments like, when he walked out with the core, and they give the look between the two of them. It's like, there's something off here.
There's a weird thing with this episode where for some reason it keeps going out of focus. Like, this is a very blurry moment. It does go into the focus in a moment, but it's the only episode I can think of that has this issue. I don't know if it's just a problem when they were digitizing it for the DVD, but yeah, it's just a weird thing.
Yeah. And now we're in the prototype Fortress of Solitude. And we're going to see some souvenirs in here.
I do wish that this set had returned at some point. I love the idea of him having sort of a prototypical fortress.
Yeah, it's something that was established in the comics.
And I can't imagine it was a particularly expensive set.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't he have like a secret lab under the barn or something?
In the classic comics, when he was a teenager, he had a laboratory that was under the Kent house. They had moved out of the farm at that point, because that was when Jonathan.
For some reason, I thought it was under the barn.
No, Jonathan had become he was the owner and proprietor of the general store in Smallville, and Superboy actually built a laboratory that was essentially under their front lawn from the basement, and it had a secret entrance.
I'll tell you why. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, they had a secret entrance that it was covered up by a rock out by a lake, a mile away.
Right.
And then there was also what they called the Cave of Silence, which was another prototype Fortress of Solitude, and it was actually in the Arctic.
I'll tell you why I was getting it confused with being under the barn. I think when they did after the New 52, when they did the Lois and Clark miniseries, I'm pretty sure when they had their place in Hamilton County, I think was the name of the town. I'm pretty sure the entrance there was a secret tunnel or something, a secret escape route to get out of there if the farm was attacked under the barn or something.
Yeah,
I could be wrong. Anybody that's read that a little bit more recently than I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't he have one under the ocean or something as well? That was like he had a second fortress just because the New 52 Superman at the time was using the Arctic. Something, I think it was in the Bermuda Triangle actually, so it would be harder to get to.
Yeah,
it was something like that. I liked the other fortress. I kind of wish that it stuck around because it made sense to have a second fortress just to keep the extra dangerous items and stuff in.
Yeah, of course, that the second fortress that he created, the dangerous items he was keeping there was super criminals.
Yeah.
So he was becoming a little bit more. He was becoming a little bit more lockdown than Superman.
It made sense though, because he couldn't take them in anywhere because he was still hiding from the world at that point. He didn't even want to reveal that he existed. But I got it. But I was glad that they got rid of that element of it, but I wish they kept the other fortress. But yeah, we just talked over the scene back at the farmhouse when Clark says goodbye. And obviously it's not really Clark. But yeah, I always thought the aliens were very clever with this, where they trick everyone involved into thinking their goodbyes have been said when they haven't.
And then, of course, kidnapping Andy and Lana.
Yeah, by that point, obviously, we know completely that they're the bad guys, but yeah. And I do understand why they kidnapped Lana, but I don't really get why Andy's there, to be honest.
Well, think about it this way. You know, they're going to have a separate enclosure for Superboy because he's the last of his kind.
Mm-hmm.
And they're
maybe they want to have them breed. Oh God, they want to breed Lana and Andy together, don't they?
Well, remember the look on Andy's face in the next part when they say, "Oh, we want to have a community of humans," and he's like, "Oh,
yeah." He's thinking, of course, Andy would. Yeah, Andy would be excited about that. Let's face it. He has spent the entire season trying to get Lana to go out with him, with varying success. You know, she's agreed to go out with him a couple of times, but I think typically something goes wrong before that point.
Yep.
Yeah, this would be a really sweet scene if it was actually Ma and Pa. I like that the music is sort of a combination of sort of sentimental, but also there's a little bit of foreboding mystery going on as well. I do think Kevin Kiner's music is very good in this episode, but then that's nothing new.
I will say
the only complaint anyone has about Kevin Kiner's music is just that the synthesizers are a little bit too low quality at times.
Yeah.
I wish he'd had an orchestra to work with, you know. Sorry, go on.
I will say this, you know, the wig they've got on George Lazenby just doesn't look as good as the one they had on Marlon Brando.
Yeah, you can sort of see a line around where the wig is on. It doesn't look like it's actually attached to his scalp at any point. I get it though, it's TV, you know.
You know, and here's my thoughts on the technology that they're using. And this is a thought that I had back when I first saw this back in 1990. The technology doesn't look like what was established as Kryptonian crystal tech in the first two movies. So I had a feeling that these were not Jor-El and Lara from the moment I saw it.
Although the sort of glass teleportation pods do look like big crystals in a way, so that works. But it's funny because when Clark shows them the prototype sort of fortress and they say it reminds them of Krypton, obviously we know if this is a Salkind inspired, like this is a Salkind project, so we know that their version of Krypton is probably quite similar in look.
Yeah.
It is a nice little clue, you know, that maybe they're just lying to him, basically. It's just like, you know, this would be a good way to sort of build his trust. It's not necessarily true, but he doesn't know that. Yeah. So that was Abandoned Earth. I tell you what, let's not give this one a score. Let's just score them both at the same time at the end of the next episode.
Yep.
I just kind of want to get straight into watching the next one. So not going to have too long an intro on this one. I think it's a good episode, but maybe we'll talk about the entire thing at the end of next week's episode. So we'll see you then. Goodbye.